Hello, people. Welcome to another episode of the Edgy and Weird Podcast. I am your one and only host, Todd LeBear. And at this point, I feel perturbed. Embarrassed. Well, if I could be embarrassed, I think I'd feel that. I listened to my last episode, and yeah, it was a bit of a pity party, a bit incoherent. I was talking with my dad, and as I'm listening back, most of that audio, like from him, it was incoherent. It was just, and then like a lot of the stuff he was saying was just like, yeah, wow. And then you got me in there, moving from point to point, kind of really fast, talking about all these podcast people, talking about Bert Kreischer, Theo Vaughn, Whitney Cummings, Tim Dillon. Like, I was pretty much ball watching Tim Dillon the whole episode. It really is pathetic, but there's something that I kind of like about that whole episode, and that is, you can just say whatever. And I put it out on YouTube, and the algorithm flagged nothing. I said a bunch of useless, like, racial shit. I also understand, man. Like, I'm saying some things to get a rise. Understand this too. People can easily be walking contradictions of themselves, or talking contradictions of themselves. I'm probably both. Like, I said a lot of shit. I was like, yeah, women aren't funny, which is mostly true. I mean, unless I'm just an idiot. Which is easily very well possible. I'm just a fucking idiot. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. It's a podcast. This isn't a dictionary or a fucking history show. Like, this is just a person running his mouth. Fucking, at the end of the day, probably trying to get some views and at the very least get my point out. Whatever the fuck that might be on the day that it is. But this is not a fact-finding show, I talked a lot of shit about Bert and how his whole thing with his dad in 9/11, he was talking about how he was 16 and he was actually 30 when the whole thing went down, but in his mind, he was still a 16-year-old scared boy. The funny thing is I actually like Bert, he does kind of rip himself apart, and fair enough, I don't, and here's the other thing, I'm talking like I've got all this fucking understanding and knowledge of what people are, but I'm just an idiot too, I'm just a person who runs my fucking mouth. That's all I really am, and I'm a manager of a luau. I mean, seriously, who gives a fuck? Like, who the fuck gives a fuck? Or are you? Is that by Safeway? Next to the gas station? No, it's on a college campus, thank you. Okay, so just as useless. As a matter of fact, the gas station is more useful than the luau or the Safeway. Yeah, dude, I'm just running my mouth. So, don't take the things that I'm saying so seriously. Like, listen to them lighthearted. Take the shit with a grain of salt, Unless there's something in there that you hear that sounds like it's like, okay. Maybe I should listen to that. That does make sense. Sure, add it to you. That's what I do. Most of the things I generally disregard, but the things that are pertinent, I ponder them and add things. I realized, yeah, I was talking to my dad. And people couldn't hear him. That wasn't the point. Hearing him wasn't necessarily the point. Like, the conversation was a one-sided conversation. It was like sometime in the morning for him, so he couldn't even really talk. But I just wanted a catalyst to get the words out, to get the things I was saying going. That's really all I wanted. I mean, like they got scenes in movies. God, here I am again, comparing myself to a fucking movie scene. But whatever. They got scenes in movies where the person is talking on the phone. You can't hear anything the other person's saying, but all of the talking structure is coming from that person on this side of the phone, and that's the only thing you need to be listening to. And by the way, there's more funny women than Amy Schumer and Eliza Schlesinger. I mean, there's more funny women than that. I can't think of any of them. No. Whoopi Goldberg, she's funny. Fucking whatever. The point is that I said women are funny. There's always exceptions to, and to me, an obvious stereotype that exists for a reason. Well, there's exceptions to that. I mean, there's plenty of funny women running around. And the other thing I said, you need to be making babies. Come on, man. Like, I don't have babies. I'm not going to give a woman a baby ever. And the funny part is that most of those people that should be making babies shouldn't also be making babies. Like, we got enough. They're like, birth is down this percent. Well, it needs to go down another 15, 20. Like, there's a lot of, because a lot of the people I'm talking about, you want them to make babies. They're going to make idiot babies. Like, it's not going to be a good thing to have these people running around with children, downloading their nonsense into these children. Most people shouldn't be making babies. Like I said, walking contradiction, man. Oh, and that other part about I was talking about Brendan Schaub, Gringo Poppy. By the way, Gringo Poppy was Brendan Schaub's latest comedy special. It's called Gringo Poppy. He's up there yelling, flailing around, this big buff dude just yelling and flailing around. Yeah, so it was garbage. So that's what I was talking about when I said Gringo Poppy. And the whole thing with Joe Rogan, blah, blah, blah. By the way, yeah, there's also, I said there's only 2 people I listen to in podcasts. That's because I've been downloading their shit into my head for the past few weeks. But, I mean, there's other people, obviously, that are coherent as well. I mean, fuck, Dave Chappelle has a podcast. He's obviously coherent. Wow. It sounds like heaven is pissing on the ground right now. Every once in a while, you just get this rain splatter where it builds up on the roof and then it just goes, blah. It sounds like a horse is pissing. Yeah, I mean, look, there's Louis C.K. I mean, he doesn't have a podcast, but he's been on several, I guess. There's Bill Burr, his Monday morning podcast. I mean, he's fantastic, So, and there's probably other people. I mean, I listen to these guys. What's his name? Tom Segura. But I mean, still, like, maybe not a Bobby Lee as far as just not getting what you are. But, I mean, yeah, you see the blind spots. But I bet that they would easily see all of the blind spots that I'm presenting here, There's definitely a lot of holes in my own personal game, Like, I start doing a podcast with one idea, and then, I swear to you, dude, I panic. I panic like 10 minutes into the thing because I forget what even some of the ideas were, and I'm hoping whatever's on the screen behind me, if people were even looking at the thing, which they probably aren't. I mean, they're probably listening to it. I'm hoping that at the very least is entertaining. Whatever fucking picture I have on the back end. Behind the back end? What the fuck does that even mean? Behind me on the TV screen. But yeah, I just, I don't know. I mean, I suppose at some point the development process will increase. I mean, I don't plan on just staying on YouTube either. I don't plan on just talking about being racist all the time. I plan on having people come on the podcast too. But hey, for what it is now, just take the shit for what it is. Don't listen. Listen back every week to see if the fucking shit gets better, or don't. It's the other thing too. I was like, yeah, I don't give a shit if people listen. All right, well, then why am I saying it? If you don't give a shit, why are you talking about it? You obviously give a shit to some fucking degree, you fucking hypocrite. And, I've been drinking pretty much every day. I've taken a couple days off here and there. Well, I think that shit's starting to give me fucking wet brain. So I'm going to have to take a few weeks off with the drinking. And that's probably... I'm going to be on a podcast not drinking. So, hey, we're going to deal with that shit again. Fuck, it's been a year since I've watched any of those. I don't even know if any of them were good. Not drinking. Still going to be smoking weed though. Always smoking the weed. Always. By the way, I said on one of the last two podcasts, I was like, yeah, there was a guy who said maybe it's great. Maybe it's good to fucking smoke and work. Yeah, I was talking about myself. I'm the one smoking and working. Because I'm good at my job. But I don't have to think about all the bullshit. Everyone's different, man. Some people can't do a thing. Some people can't do anything when they're working. They gotta be fucking straight sober. Me? I wouldn't recommend drinking on the job, but we got some people that are doing that. I don't know. And then I'm looking at them sometimes. And I don't know, maybe they are drunk. But a lot of us do smoke some weed. And we're good, dude. Like we're beasts at our job. I don't even think weed is a drug. I think it's more medicinal. There are medicines that are more drugs than weed. OxyContin, Percocet, fucking morphine. Those are more drugs than they are helpful. I mean, they're not helpful, but they're definitely more drugs. And I only get this one day off, but I could use this day more productively. I definitely just sat around today. I mean, I slept most of the day. I did some laundry. I slept most of the day. I'm still trying to get used to just having this day off. Isn't that life though? You're always trying to get used to something. Something's always changing. And then you're trying to readjust after you just adjusted to the last change. Life is always like that. Things around you are always happening, most of which you cannot control. And life is like conversations in that way. I mean, conversations go all over the board, just like your daily life. You can't. Obviously, it's not just me. I'm sure some people have a plan for their day. how many times in the day does the plan change? How many times is it forced to change? How many people don't adapt to that very well? And the ones that do are crazy. Because they're just not thinking about stuff. Oh, that happened? Oh, someone died? All right, well, now I'm just going to go this way. I mean, and look. I mean, I get that a lot of the shit I say, first of all, it's not incoherent. It just takes more thought to process what I'm saying. Sure, yeah, I'm all over the map sometimes. But there's definitely thought going into everything that's coming out of my mouth. Like I said, it's not a fact-finding mission. I've said stories over and over. I've said a few. There's got to be some people who are like, dude, am I literally watching the same podcast? I'm sorry for that. I will try to do better. I will try to expand my horizons. But I'll tell you this. If you're listening, it's your own fault. If you're listening. I mean, you're listening to me, which most people aren't, so most people are not subjecting themselves to this. I wonder how many people listen to me, in like hatred. And how many people want to say, like, wow, yeah, this guy's he just sucks. And it's funny too, all the people I was talking about that are depraved, I'm depraved. I think of myself as a piece of shit. I have my own crying children. It's not just Bert Kreischer. Oh, yeah, and by the way, that laughing thing I was doing with him, thinking on his laugh, I recognized that went on a bit too long. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, listen back to the last episode. Like, I did that a lot, trying to prove a point, I think. But, hey, what are you going to do? Having a podcast is like being in a relationship. You just keep doing the thing because you want to be in a relationship. But ultimately, I don't think any of us knows how relationships work. Why? Because they involve people. And every single person is different. So every relationship has to be different. They're all going to incorporate different, probably similar, but different compromises on both sides in one that will actually work. And I figure a podcast is similar. Probably not. It's inanimate, but it's real. It's there. I figure it's similar. It's something you got to work at. And if you like being in the podcast world, well, every episode's not going to be great. Some of them are going to be shit. Guaranteed there's going to be at least one or two things, and probably every one of them that you can extrapolate something from. But there's definitely going to be some dead air. There's going to be some shit that I say that it's going to be like, yeah, well, that was absolutely unnecessary. Just like in a relationship. But you just keep going, keep doing the thing, because it's what you want to do. It's where you want to be. And that's where I want to be. I want to be in the podcasting world. I mean, I don't think I necessarily want to work at a luau. I listen to some of the guys as they talk about the way I react to what people do. Like, I serve food at this luau. And we serve fish, chicken, and pork. And salad, rice, and veggies too. Well, I serve the fish, chicken, and pork. And you get these people, they come through the line, and they're like, oh, I don't want the fish. I don't want the chicken. It's like, well, are you allergic? All right, well, then you're a piece of shit. I mean, I know you're from Nebraska or whatever. Why don't you do this? Don't tell me what you don't want unless it's going to kill you. Why don't you just fucking let me put the shit on your plate, move on, and if you don't like it, then don't eat it. You should probably at least try it, you close-minded fuck. And if you don't like the thing, throw it away. But here's what I don't give a shit about. Alright? And even if you are allergic to something, you don't have to tell me that. More than likely, if you're coming through the line, I've probably already peeped it. So keep it to yourself and move on. Those fucking people that are just like, oh yeah, no, I'm sorry. I don't eat I don't eat meat. I didn't ask you if you did, okay? I heard you say you were a vegetarian already when you were getting the vegetables. I didn't need you to tell me, no thank you, or I don't eat meat. By the way, if you are allergic to something, why are you proud? Fuck, I probably already said this in another podcast, but whatever. Why are you proud of being defective? You came off the assembly line defective. That is nothing to be proud of. It is just something to accept in life. So don't be like, oh no, I can't eat nuts. Be like, yeah, I can't eat nuts. See how different that is? Versus, yeah, this is the way it is. Be like that. Being the other thing, I don't know what that is. It's some type of high-minded thing, but for me, it speaks to, I don't know, some shitty human fucking, I don't know, depravity, some insecurity that's manifesting itself, and you thinking that you need to tell everyone, inform everyone that you can't or you don't eat a thing. Oh no, I'm vegetarian. Oh no, I'm vegan. Fuck, bro. We literally had these people come through the line the other day, and he was like, so we serve on wooden plates on small nights, and then on bigger nights we serve on paper plates. We have a number of wooden plates, and once the number of people we have increases to a certain point, we don't have enough of them, so we just fucking give them the disposable ones. So this is a small night. We had wooden plates, and it was this old white couple. And the funny part about it to me was the guy was the one bringing the mess, and the woman was the one shaking her head. Even though they were both kind of on the same wavelength of what they want and don't want, like she was obviously more aware of how ludicrous it looked like in human society, you know. And the guy was aware enough in that he was like, hey, I'm sorry, we're some of those problem people. Well, by all means, don't be. By all means, in this late age of your life, try to find happiness and not more problems everywhere you go. You're in Hawaii, you're in the sun. It was raining that day. You're in the sun. So why don't you chill out and be at a place? We had two extremes of that same luau. So we had that person or that couple, and they're like, yeah, so do you have any disposable plates? Because we don't eat meat, and the wooden plates that you're using had meat on them at one time. They had meat on them at some point. So we don't want to eat off of those. And that's where the wife was shaking her head. She was like, I brought my own paper plates. She was like, it's okay. She was like, it's okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for him. I'm sorry for him. You can just give us the wooden plates. We'll figure it out. And at the end of the day, they ended up pretty much eating nothing. I didn't give them the wooden plates. I went back there and got them the fucking styrofoam ones. Not styrofoam, the paper ones. And And then they didn't use them, and then we just gave them the fucking vegan curry in a cup, which I'm pretty sure they didn't eat. You know. God, they're just better off dead. Those two. They're better off dead. Like, what a miserable life. I mean, if you don't want to use something that has been used for something else, unless you're rich as fuck, you're always going to be using something that was used for something else, and that might not have always been ideal. More than likely, it probably was not. So we had that extreme, and then we had the other one where this woman comes up to me at the end of the night, and she was just like, "This was awesome. It was awesome." She was like, "It's been a dream of mine to come here for 20 years. The show, the food, it was just great." It was this white lady. And then she was like, "You know what? I have cancer. I'm not going to lose to it. I'm going to beat it. I've had it twice before. I beat it then. I'm going to beat it again, just like my mom." It's like, holy shit. She was like, so I just want you to know that this was a dream of mine, and it was fulfilled to the fullest. This thing was spectacular. But that's coming from a person who has cancer, who knows that she might possibly die. And so anything in her life that exceeds her expectations in the slightest is fucking phenomenal. And I imagine that is an amazing way to live life. Because you know that every second more has more meaning. And all of the other petty things that people concentrate on that they don't like, well, you've already decided that, hey, I'm trying to live life. So all of those things don't matter. And then you can just concentrate on the things that you like, you know? So I was just like, yo, I'm happy for you. I'm happy for you. I mean, and I legitimately think I am happy for her. You know, and I hope that didn't sound condescending to her or just now. Like she said, she was like, "Thank you." And then she walked on. But here's the thing. For us normal people who don't have something that's killing us, like, that show's not phenomenal. It's never been phenomenal. Because it's just not a phenomenal show. But perspective is so strong in a negative or a positive way. It's so fucking strong. So, from your perspective, if you are in a life or death, every day you wake up, it's life or death, then there's probably a lot more things that are going to be phenomenal in your life just because you're alive to see them. So I respect that, and I think that she should have met that fucking shit couple and exposed them to a little bit of cancer. So that they could be like, you know what? Just give me the wooden plate. Because she's dying of cancer. And we're just being unwelcoming, like, over the top pieces of shit. For no fucking reason at all. Like, what print are you going to leave on the world by not using a wooden plate just because somebody else used it? Who's it going to matter to? Ever, ever, ever. The only thing that matters, you are the only people that give a shit about what matters in your life. Does that make sense? So when you die, no one else is going to give a shit about the things that matter in your life. Notwithstanding, there's obviously issues that transcend and a lot of people get attached. But using a wooden plate versus the fucking styrofoam one or a paper one because someone else had meat on it last month. That's not a thing. That's not a thing that most people give a fuck about. And if you give a fuck about that, you should die. You're useless. Your points are useless, and if you're focused on that, I hate to see the other things that you possibly focus on, because they're probably all nonsense. Someone had chicken on this once. I mean, what the fuck? Like, how can you even work yourself into even getting there? Like, that's obviously psychosis. It's obviously being mentally deficient. It's obvious. And what a miserable life, too. Miserable. You got to think about all that all the time? Ugh. Dude, just like being racist or Republican or a Democrat. You always got to think about what someone else is doing. You always got to be cognizant of, I have to hate this. Or I have to acknowledge that these people are right because they're on my side. And how many times is that the truth? Never, actually. Pretty much never. Because they're people, so no. And then I have to hate the other ones, no matter if they're right or not, because they're on that side. Like, I mean, how exhausting a life. How exhausting a fucking life that must be. But hey, do you? Do you? Have fun with it, I guess. Makes no sense to me. Alright, so what else? I mean, I've been watching anime. So that's fun. Jerking off a lot. I think I'm going to cut that out. I thought about calling my dad back. I'm trying to do another thing with that, but I mean, I think we're going to be better off if we try to do the Zoom, because the phone thing doesn't work. And here's the thing. All right, so in the podcast, my dad talked about, but a lot of the conversations I had with him, a lot of times he's just going, yeah, oh my goodness, wow, like he does that a lot, you know. So that's kind of why I thought a phone conversation with him would be fine, because first of all, he'd already told me that he couldn't talk much because it was late where he was, and I was like, well, okay, this would be like some of the other conversations we have where you're just going, yeah, wow. No offense, Dad. Like, when you eventually hear this, but you do that a lot. It's kind of like all of us growing up at home, like my grandpa, because he was like this strong force, and you didn't want to say anything stupid. So you just relegated your responses to just a few words, you know? Like, yes, sir, it sure is. It sure is. Yes, sir, you're right. Yeah, I believe that too. Yes, sir, I believe that too. There's just a lot of just repeating the same, like 6 or 7 words. It sure is. I mean, I can't believe how many times I've said it sure is in my life. And all of it came in my 20s. I said it sure is at least 700,000 times. I said it sure is. Yes, sir, it sure is. My God. Just the things that you do that you say when you're in fear. Like, and that's the thing. I think most conversations are had probably in fear. You know? So it kind of blocks you. Like when you're with your friends, that's when you're free. Smoking a little doobie, maybe drinking a couple beers, you're chilling with them, and then, oh God, all types of shit just comes flying out of your mouth. But like, if you're talking to like a CEO or somebody that could affect your future in one way or another, it's not, yep, oh my, oh yeah, you're right about that. It sure is. Are those not really the things that just keep getting regurgitated by people? I mean, I feel like it is. I mean, I feel like when I'm talking to someone and I know when they checked out, because they're just like, yo, yo, yo. It's like, oh, bro, I guess I'm boring. Or I'm intimidating. You know, depending on the person you're talking to. But all that shit's just life, man. Like, life is a combination of the ultra boring and the ultra surprising, and then a little bit in the middle. I don't think the middle takes up most space. I think it's even thirds, and that percentage gets moved around depending on the type of person and depending on the personality that they have. Like some people's lives are, a lot of it is super exciting, and then they die at 22, and then a lot of people, their lives are just super boring. And then they die at 100. And then the people in the middle die at 60. You know, because they had enough boring or enough exciting, and then it, you know, it balanced out. It all ate their life. It all ate their life force. And then, so now they're dead. You know, if you're super boring, you're probably going to live a long life. It's going to be a super long, boring life. It'll be 100, and you'll, you know, like you'll have the flowers in front of the house, and, you know, like your kids all love you and all that shit because they have no reason to hate you because you never really did anything. You were just there, and you were there, and you gave them sandwiches when you were young, and you know, some of those people might have gotten divorced, but even if they did, it wasn't anything epic like a Jerry Springer show. It was just more of a normal, like, we no longer love each other, da 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 da. So then, yeah, all your siblings and children and nephews, they all, you know, love you because they're supposed to. You never did anything really epic to deserve that love, but you know, the fear of not being human keeps people saying that they love you. I mean, what really is love? To me, love is more of an infatuation, but I mean, we'll get into that later. Like, I don't even know what love is. Most of my family, I guess I love them, but I can't stand those motherfuckers. They're always talking about happy shit, which I know, but life isn't happy, you know? So it's like, you know, that shit just, it compounds, and then it's just like, I mean, and then I hate myself more because I can't even attach myself to anything that they're saying because they're talking like Marvelous Monday and all that. I mean, I've gone into that before, and it's just like, well, I mean, it's not Marvelous Monday. I have diarrhea. So I got diarrhea. There's nothing. Can someone come on the thing and be like, I have diarrhea today? Someone pray for me. Because every day can't be marvelous. It literally is impossible. It just can't be a thing, dude. So, man, all the stuff I used to watch. The Young Turks, I used to watch that shit. So the Young Turks is this thing where, yeah, you know, they inform on all types of political things, like the Roe v. Wade stuff. You know, Amy Coney, Long Island hot dog. Fucking Tim Dillon, Amy Coney Barrett. You know, her getting fucking affirmed, like, you know, R. Kelly, Louis C.K. Like, they talk about a lot of there. And by the way, they were on the wrong side of the Young Turks, the show. Jink Yeager, Anna Kasparian, some other people. You know, like one of the things they were talking about. Fuck, I gotta talk about Tim Dillon again. Alright. No, I'm not sucking his dick. I don't even know the motherfucker. He's just funny to me. And he makes a shit ton of sense. But, oh no, actually, fuck, they weren't even talking about him, so it's fine. They were talking about Joe Rogan. Yeah, and talking about him again. They were talking about him. And, like, I'm surprised he said something that was, you know, so, like, it was so coherent, because he's usually this right wing. It's like, you obviously have not been listening to his show to think he's that. Like, what are you listening to? And then it's like the people like Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel and, bro, Jimmy Fallon. Listen to one of my older episodes where I just run my mouth about those clowns. Especially Jimmy Fallon. You know, like, he is just a pathetic display of subhumanity. That, bro, I mean, he's going to commit suicide at some point. Like, he's going to kill himself. Like, at some point, he's going to realize that he's only just been taking it up the ass and willingly giving his ass up. And he's going to realize that, and it's going to fuck with him too. Like, once he turns 50, I don't know, dude. Like, he's either going to change and become probably the most savage comedian you've ever heard. Because he's not going to spend his whole life on that platform. And all the things that are building up, like, they're going to have to come out, you know. And then you might possibly see a funny dude, you know, who's just saying all types of semi-incoherent shit along with all of the funny shit he's been burying just so he could do that fucking show. You know? And then, but like, even, I mean, because his is the most demonstrative, like, display of just fake in someone. I mean, like, there's nothing ever funny about his monologues. Like, there's never any semblance of understanding why the crowd's not laughing. He just pushes through, you know. At the very least, like with Stephen Colbert, like, he acknowledges some of those things. He gives himself shit sometimes. Yeah, but honestly, any of them, it's really hard to watch any of them anymore. And the only way I would pick that up at this point, any of those shows, is just for podcast commentary. Like, I have no interest in hearing anything that those idiots have to say, because it's mostly just political garble, like, just political trash. And, I mean, haven't we had enough of that? I mean, seriously, haven't we had enough of that already? Like, politics, it's for the robots now, bro. It's not for us humans. Like, there's no one in the political forum that represents anything about any of us humans anymore. As a matter of fact, they pretty much haven't. You know? And I mean, bro, you're literally better off watching TikTok vids where they're fucking doing vids dancing to the Barney song. Like, I mean, it's a garbage show, and it's all a lie, all of it. None of them believe in anything that they're saying, except for maybe Bernie Sanders. You know, fuck, dude. And I've been listening to Tim Dillon too much because I don't even like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, as they like to call her. Everyone loves their acronyms. You know, like, to me, she sounds coherent. But then when you listen a little deeper, it's like, oh, she's already been bought by someone. And she's where she's at because she's hot, too. So there's that. You know? But, hey, there's a place for that. And there's a market for talking about how all of this shit breaks down. And there's a way to make it all funny. If I was a comedian, I would know how to do that. Or just give me a little time. You know? I'm still just breaking back in with the podcasting. I definitely haven't hit a stride yet. And so some of these episodes are probably going to seem a bit linear. Or maybe just off the rails. Give me a little time. I know I'm going to bury a lot of leads. Literally, I've been doing that this whole podcast cycle. Like, from start to finish. Like, when I listen back to them. Bro, the amount of times I cut people off. The amount of times that I forget what I'm saying halfway through the fucking story. I'm like, oh, this might be going good. And I'm thinking that in my mind. And then it makes me forget what I'm even talking about. So trust me, dude. Like, I know, I'm aware of how retarded I sound. And then, by the way, saying things like retarded, saying things like, oh, the women should be having babies. Yeah. Satire. This is not a fact-finding mission. Like I said earlier. Talking shit. Okay? It's a podcast. Which means it's meaningless. You listen to it purely for entertainment value or just to pass the time while you're in traffic. But it's worth listening to the whole show because sometimes I bring things around. You know? Look, I'm always going to talk shit and I'm going to butter my own bread for sure. But I'm going to talk shit about myself too. Because I know I'm a piece of shit. I know I'm nothing. I get that. So I'm going to talk about that too. You know? Some days, though, I'm going to talk about how dumb other people are. And I'm not going to say that I don't care. No, I kind of don't. And I'm not going to say I don't care if no one responds. Because it would be cool if people did. You know? And so, as we're moving forward, as I've said before, put the shit in the comments. You know, I said that. I also said that, you know, like some people tell me things. It's like, we'll put it in the comments. Because I wanted to be in the comment section. That being said, I could talk about what people say, too. Like last week's episode where I was talking about the woman who was like, you ever let him talk? It's like, well, if he had something to say. It's also like, well, it's my show. So I can talk whenever I want. It's also like, that's a bit like me being a megalomaniac. And I should definitely be better at allowing people to express their opinions than I am. I do realize that I'm pretty bad at that. And so I'm going to work on being better with that. But like some people, I'm talking to them and I'm like, well, I mean, they're what they have to offer is slight. But I mean, even saying that, I mean, I don't even think that's necessarily true. I think that's me overthinking sometimes. And so then I start to cut people off. You know, so there's that. And then here's the funny thing, when they try to interject, sometimes they interject with something really stupid. And I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm cutting them off again. I was thinking about, too, another thing I said in the last podcast, and that was talking about that fucking, people trying to fuck animals. And what I was talking about was this show is called Sweet Tooth. So, like, here's the funny thing, I don't even know if anyone's fucking anyone in there. Like, I've only seen the preview, and it's just this fucking kid with deer antlers. You know, I do still vaguely think, abstractly, I think that they're trying to work in, like, the powers that be are trying to work in bestiality and all that. Like, I mean, and like I said before, if you think they're not, that fucking robots, getting robots to have more human qualities, an Ex Machina movie, where the guy gets infatuated with his robot, like all of that shit. It's coming. It's gonna be more prevalent as time goes on. And I mean, it's very sad to say, pedophilia has been here since the beginning of time, and it's going to be here until this world ends. That is a very sad truth, but it's kind of the way it is. And here's the other worst part of what I just said. It's not even the worst part. Is that I have almost nothing else left to give. As far as this episode is concerned, like I pretty much burned myself out. So, the fuck, I'm gonna leave you guys with that, just wondering what the fuck this whole thing was, even, and then I'll see you next week, maybe with my dad, or maybe just for another session of rambling, either or. I'll see you guys next week. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Edgy and Weird Podcast. We're out.